Hey, Steeler Nation! Welcome back to the SteelerWadeShow. Man, it's back to Ravens week. It is back to Ravens week, and right out of the gate, I got to just say, Ravens, please play your starters. Play Lamar. Play that linebacker, Queen. Play them all. Try to knock the Pittsburgh Steelers out of playoff contention. A little Build-A-Bear. My bride spent about like $75 on when I needed a lot of socks when we were poor. But now is his year. Appreciate you checking out the show. You know, I had some things. Please consider liking the video. Now I know the trajectory of it. I was driving home from work, and I wanted to put out a little bit more content this week because we just don't know, right? We don't know when our official season is going to end. You know, I want the best for us. You want the best for us, right, Steeler Nation? But it could be coming close, you know, through no fault of our own, through all of our fault of our own. And I just want to put a little bit out there. Ravens week is the week, you know, and all this talk about it's sensible for them to rest their starters like Lamar and things like that, you know. And a lot of Steeler podcasts out there like, man, I hope this happens so we can just win this game and maka because they scored 50 points, you know, this and that. And I've changed. I'm at a little bit different of a tune. I'm putting a little bluegrass on that heavy metal right now. And I want Baltimore to think they can knock us out of playoff contention. That's AFC North. If Harbaugh shies away from that, sure, Huntley's an all-pro. You remember that from last year, him being an all-pro. But don't puss out. Play your starters. Knock the Pittsburgh Steelers out of playoff contention with the best you got right now at home. See if you can beat us. That's what I would like to see. Man, I had all these different ideas about what this podcast wanted to be today. And I had some really neat thoughts like with Mason, because I haven't really been talking about him much, you know. It is what it is, and I've been kind of just, you know. And I figured, I'm driving home. I have over an hour commute, so I have way too much time to think about things. And, you know, I had some really neat ideas. You know, and the thing I was going to tear off on was the idea that where's the experience access compared to the lack of physical injury. You know, like Mason was a brand new antique. So I hope I come back to that and I do it because I thought it was very clever. But I came home. I was listening to a podcast that I like, and it finished, and I was waiting on another one to come on that I like. I was listening to the Roland Foster show, and just kind of this is my time in my, you know, after I get off work and waiting on the afternoon drive to come on. And I played the Pittsburgh Steelers release of the Mason Rudolph's press interview, right? And this, folks, Steeler Nation, please, if you see this, link it, share it, whatever. Everybody has to see this interview. It's one of the neatest interviews I think I have seen. Definitely top 15 Steeler interviews I think I've ever heard. And he handled it so well. The very first thing that Mason says in this press interview is that he credits his offensive line. You know, you would think that would be something that's like automatic. Oh, well, I'm going to give credit to the offensive line. I don't know if it's that automatic. I mean, because we grew up with, I didn't grow up with Ben, but I mean, a lot of us grew up with Ben. I grew up personally, with Ben. With the way he looked at his offensive line, we just figured that's how you do it, right? It's righteous. Ben, that righteous. It feels righteous. Mason grew up with that, and that was the automatic first thing that he said, offensive line, the guys up front, right? And I was like, because Mason's been around this deal, this team, this whole thing for a long time. He's seen many things. He knows the intimate, things about the relationship that Ben would take care of business. He would take care of his offensive line, and it was always a very just genuine, genuine. And I think that's one of the greatest things about Ben, So, it's, even if he may not have been a part of it, like they talk about, like we had this talk about with the quarterbacks, this quarterback had a certain amount of team reps. This quarterback had a certain amount of, first team reps. And if you think about it, think about all the experience, all the locker room experience, all the summer camps, all the rookie camps. I know he didn't do them all, but all the, camp, all that boarding up. Think how many team reps Mason Rudolph has had with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has seen a lot of things, and he seems to be someone that is enjoyed across the board. So, the second thing that he said, he gave praise to his moneymakers, to the receivers. When I came off of the New Year's Eve game, I tried to do my first raw reaction, and I wasn't very polished. But one of the great things that I seen in that first take that I had was that tackle that George Pickens, he did tackle the guy, but the way he wanted to tackle him was past aggressive. And that was the first thing, that Mason pitched out. And I thought, that's pretty supportive. If I have most guys, mostly are muck. Most of the viewers I seem to have are men. So a lot of guys like gangster movies. Here's one that may not have heard of, but it's a great one called Miller's Crossing. And there's this part where this one Italian guy is talking. I'll put a link down below. But the things that came across from Mason was selflessness, teammate, ethics. You're going to love Miller's Crossing, guys. Check that movie out. You're going to absolutely love it. You'll thank me later. Another thing that he said, it's odd how men use words. The clever ones use them the most cleverly. And just the way that it comes out. Who knows, But Mason Rudolph called Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett dear friends. Not a word you hear from guys very often, unless it's old men or at somebody's funeral. And that is just putting it out there. It's kind of gangster. You know what I mean? It's respectful. I don't know. It's just a pitch to it that is just pretty cool. The very next line, and I felt this tremendously because the men that I'm working around currently, he said, great dudes to go to work with. I am on an amazing crew right now. You don't get like this. It doesn't happen like that. A lot of carpenters, we go to work and you got this and that, but we got a good, and it's nice. And that's what he said about Mitch and Kenny and that group. And this is what's happening, great dudes to go to work with. And it's nice, it's nice. It's nice. Of course, I can't see. The part that I really started just falling in deep. Check it out from minute 450 to 530. And I believe he's asked about the whole commercial real estate. What's your future plans? This and that. And this is the part where I think Pittsburgh Steelers fans are just not going to be able to help falling in deep. Deep. I've pretty good, I had 4 girlfriends. I married 3 of them. I'm pretty good at pushing off relationships. But the things that Mason Rudolph says, and this is going to be, like what I said, one of the greatest interviews, Pittsburgh Steelers interviews, one of the best. Definitely going to make your top 25. It has to. It just, it was like this energy of like your value to Mason. Like, what are you going to do after this? You're talking about commercial real estate, and it's, and he kind of stammers and this and that. And that's kind of the niceness of it all. First things out of his mouth, he says, we need to make the playoffs. Where is his value with Mike Tomlin after saying a word like that? And he's also putting it out there. This is my value. We need to make the playoffs. Look, if I can make you into the playoffs, I have got to be worth something. He'd already been bragging earlier about, he asked about playing a Baltimore defense. Well, they're number 1 in basically every category. He's like, look. Before that, he's asked about going into Baltimore. Well, I've done it 5 times. It's a rivalry. We'll put it at that, But the very next line out of his mouth was, I love playing for this team. Selling himself. Like, look, the next word from his mouth, I love winning. Mike Tomlin knows it's all about winning. You can't say it any better than that. I don't know what the future is with the quarterback situation. But Steeler fans, you've got to watch this interview. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. There's another line a little later. Like when we were struggling during the Arizona and the New England losses, they all this talk about on the podcast is what's the Steeler way, and they're losing the Steeler way, and Clark, them, all these people, and they hate them, golly, and he literally listened to it. He literally talked about TJ Watt, being voted the most valuable player on the team. But he says, he's like, all these neat things about him. And he says, that's what it's like. That's the Steeler way. Like, this old guy, he's been around. I think there's a lot of appreciation going on with younger guys that I think it's cool. I talk on this podcast a lot about, like, the Steelers are like my soap opera. These are my stories. And couldn't have been any better. It's been a wonderful year. I really have been happy since the Cincinnati win. You know, I want to put out some more things out there. Let me get down low. Folks, please consider liking the video. And if you like liking things, please subscribe. I appreciate you listening to me. Listening to my thoughts. SteelerWadeShow. Please subscribe and share if you would. And let's have some more good thoughts. I'll come back with that whole brand new antique thing with Rudolph Mason Rudolph.